and they didn't answer the question. So I figure I would take the initiative to answer it myself, considering I've been down this road before. The question is, can your feelings change for your spouse in a Christian marriage? Now, some of you know my story. I was married for about 15 years before I went through a divorce. And, of course, I'm Christian. My ex-wife is Christian. And throughout those 15 years, and I'm going somewhere with this, throughout those 15 years, life always gives you these ebbs and flows, these ups and downs, like they consistent, ups and downs, how you handle them. Snoop Dogg had the song, There Will Be Ups and Downs, Smiles and Frowns. But anyway, I always think of that when I hear that. But it's interesting because during the down times, rarely do we discuss how we're actually feeling. I think that's the thing when it comes to our feelings, and being honest about this is where I'm at in my season in life now. Because in my marriage now, and I can say something that I had to grow and mature in was expressing my feelings and how I truly felt, opposed to putting my feelings away and just think that everything was going to be all right and that my spouse knew everything that was going on with me, right? But I realized that speaking and saying how I truly felt, and where I was in life, that you have to give your spouse that reason. You have to let them understand where you're coming from, because then they know how to navigate. And when you don't express your feelings, they have no idea. We always talk about being in marriages and being a mind reader, and I just expected you to know these things. No, people aren't mind readers. You have to say how you feel and being honest about that.
Are you tired of dating the same person, just different faces? Are you tired of people wasting your time in this whole dating process? Do you desire to marry one day? I created this 5-part video series entitled Dating Intentionally 5 Ways to Know They Are the One for You. You can get it now in the comment section below. You will see it is 5, the number 5, ways to know podia.com. I created this 5-part video series with you in mind. Now let's get back into today's podcast episode.
Now, I will say, yes, can your feelings change? Of course. If you're with someone throughout any extended amount of time, it isn't always going to be unicorns and rainbows and Skittles. That's just not life. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be new exciting adventures to conquer. I mean, when you think about it, you have kids. Now, let me use this as an example. Going back to my first marriage, what happened between her and I talked about this before, but I'll explain it again. There was a time where our family, when we first married, her son was 12 at the time already, and I was 24. So here it is, I'm 24 years old, raising somebody half my age, going into a marriage. And we talk about the whole blended family thing. Look, nobody grows up. Can I be honest? Nobody grows up saying, I want to raise somebody else's kid. You don't think about that. You think about raising your kid, right? The kid that you have with whoever you're with. So one thing was, I was raising someone half my age. My ex-wife was 7 years older than me. And throughout those years, we had some financial challenges. Her mom got sick, her mom passed, just so many different things changing, moving from one state to another state. We were living in Cleveland, and then we relocated to Arizona, lived out there for some years before I end up, going through my divorce and remarrying. And then I relocated to Texas. But those are a lot of life transitions, starting new jobs, things of that nature. And in those times, I wasn't really being upfront about my feelings because I felt that she had so much on her plate with my ex-wife. I felt like my feelings weren't valid, and see, that's where I went wrong, where I should have been more mature to express the way I felt. So that way she could know how to navigate my feelings and how I truly felt down inside. So your feelings, of course, they're going to always change. And, your health can change. You might end up gaining weight. things of that nature. And men are visually attractive. You might have that problem. And then those feelings start to change as well. And I will say that when you start to have those arguments and you start to disrespect each other, when you're just so frustrated and you're cursing and all these different things, when you get frustrated with your spouse, I think those things that start to cause the demise of the marriage. I think that's when the feelings start to change, is when you start to lose the respect for your spouse, the belittling, when you're talking to them like a child. So all these things, they come into play, which will make you feel a certain way, especially like I say, if you've been with someone for an extended amount of time, you have to know how to navigate those things together. And that's through therapy. I'm grateful for therapy now that I'm older. And I always tell people, my wife, she has her own therapist. I have my own therapist. Well, I've switched over to a new therapist, and we have our marriage therapist. So we literally have 3 therapy sessions going on, and it's worth the investment. I always tell single people, if you want to know if someone is serious about dating or getting into a relationship or marriage, see how much money they're actually spending on themselves. If it's through therapy, if it's through books, if it's through conferences, video series, because people are always going to invest in what they believe in. So again, the feelings, they can change, but you got to have the tough conversations, and it's okay. And sometimes you might go through a divorce where you're totally honest about, I don't think this marriage is going to work anymore. And I'm hoping that most marriages will stay the course, because I think great marriages are built on overcoming adversities. I think sometimes we get caught up in thinking that when we get married and we meet down at the altar, that we're going to be baggage free. And it doesn't work like that. We still have childhood traumas. We still have things that we're fighting through every day. We are, I like to say, beautifully broken. And when when you're beautifully broken, and you understand that your spouse have issues just like you can learn to extend grace to them. And that way you're not taking everything so personal. You're realizing that they have flaws just like you do, opposed to being on your high horse thinking that you're better than everybody else. And I don't understand why she would do this, or I don't understand why he would do that. Like, just the way that you can get on your spouse nerves, they can get on your nerves as well. None of us are perfect. So we have to learn how to extend that grace. Now, when it comes to feelings, they come and go. I mean, we really can't rely on our feelings. And sometimes we just have to fight through those things, because if we left everything to our feelings, we wouldn't get anything done. 1 minute you're feeling like this, the next minute you're feeling like that. Now, I will say, if you're feeling like this over an extended amount of time, where you're putting in years on top of years and you're just not happy in the marriage, I understand that, where those feelings are consistent over an extended amount of time. But if it's just a seasonal thing, understand that, again, ebbs and flows. Life comes in seasons, and it's okay to feel a certain way about your spouse. It happens, but that doesn't mean you have to leave the marriage, because therapy can help you see from a different perspective. Reading books on how to improve yourself or how to improve your marriage, it helps you see from a different perspective. Now, there are a lot of challenges, and I talked about this before, even with my ex-wife. We had 2 kids. She had her child, and we had a child together. And when her mom passed, a lot of things start to decline. Like, we were having some financial issues, and knowing that her mom passed, that was tough. And trying to go through that process and then trying to raise kids, it can really be challenging. But we didn't stay in tune. We were on 2 different pages. We were on 2 different levels. And I think that's where the demise of the marriage came, because I was growing in one area and she was in a different space in her life. And we just weren't connecting. We weren't making those necessary connections to keep us together. I like what TD Jake said. He said that in marriage, it's just like when you're on a motorcycle. If someone is on the back of the motorcycle, when they turn, you got to be able to go in the turn too, because if you don't go in that turn, you can lose that person off the back of the bike. So I think that's what happened with our marriage, was that when I made a certain turn, she didn't turn with me. And that's not saying that I was the right one, but there was a lot of turns in our marriages and we just weren't on the same page. And when that happens over an extended amount of time, like I was saying, that can cause issues in a marriage. So yes, your feelings can change, but you don't have to throw away the marriage if you are having feelings. It happens, but if it happens over an extended amount of time, get therapy, do everything that you can to try to make the marriage work. If not, I understand divorce is real. I'm not a therapist. This isn't a therapy session. I'm just giving my experience and what I've learned from teaching couples over the past 20 years, especially in the church world. I've been a part of two mega ministries, been a part of actually growing those ministries. So I know what it takes to build people, seeing this over 20 years, seeing churches go from 100 members to 10,000 members to 500 members to 20,000 members. I know what it takes to deal with couples and being in charge of those families and those households and over even different cities in those locations. So I'm grateful to have served to that capacity. So